Hi, I'm Mike Sargent, and this is Arise on Screen.
I am Hercules!
Dwayne Johnson is the son of Zeus, a legend, the mightiest Greek of them all. Now, he's haunted by a sin from his past in Hercules.
Hey! You speak English?
No.
You speak English?
Yes.
Take me to the hospital now.
In Taiwan, Scarlett Johansson goes from good to badass. After an accident gives her the mental and physical powers to turn the tables on an international mob, Scarlett Johansson and Morgan Freeman star in Lucy.
My mental impressions are cloudy.
Are they cumulus clouds or cirrus?
You're making fun of me.
Emma Stone is a psychic who might be a fake, and Colin Firth is a magician who unmasks frauds, but neither of them counted on finding the magic of love. They star in Woody Allen's Magic in the Moonlight. All this and more on Arise on Screen. Hello, I'm Mike Sargent, and welcome to Arise on Screen, your global home for films both on screen and behind the scenes. Let's get to it. First, with this week's box office winners. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes tops the box office this week, followed by The Purge, Anarchy, Planes, Fire and Rescue, Sex Tape, and Transformers, Age of Extinction rounds out the number 5 spot. And in movie news...
I would have thought of all those brains you've got, you would have figured out the game you're playing by now.
In No Good Deed, it's Idris Elba like you've never seen him before. Elba stars as an escaped convict who terrorizes a mom, played by Taraji P. Henson, and her 2 children in their own home. Can the family escape their captor? No Good Deed hits theaters in September.
I came here to tell you that something is coming that is out of my control.
The new movie, Exodus, God and Kings, is the story of Moses, his brother Ramses, and the exodus of the Jews from Egypt. An all-white cast, including Christian Bale, Joel Edgerton, and Sigourney Weaver, for the Egyptian epic is now the target of a social media boycott. Will moviegoers using the hashtag #BoycottExodusMovie prevent the epic's holiday release?
Dear white people, the minimum requirement of black friends needed to not seem racist has just been raised to 2.
From one film being criticized for too many white people to the first full trailer for Dear White People, the much-anticipated first film by director Justin Simien. The Sundance Award-winning movie is a tongue-in-cheek look at racial identity in a post-racial America. Based on Simien's own experience at a predominantly white college, the movie opens in October 2014. Bollywood star Rani Mukherjee is back in the new crime drama Murdani, where she plays a hard-driving cop on the trail of a child trafficking ring. The character is a departure for Mukherjee, who is known for playing more traditional feminine roles. So far, critics say the new role suits the actress. See more of Mukherjee when the film is released in August. And finally, opera lover Paul Potts, Britain's Got Talent's first winner, will have his story come to life on the big screen.
What are you here for today, Paul?
To sing opera.
You gotta see this.
Ready when you are.
The biopic, One Chance, produced by Britain's Got Talent judge Simon Cowell, chronicles the loving former mobile salesman's life from being bullied as a child to winning the competition show in 2007. The film will debut online on Yahoo's streaming 10 days in advance of its release in theaters across the U.S. And in festival news, the March on Washington Film Festival, which toured 3 U.S. cities, wraps up next week. In Washington, D.C., the festival features sold-out screenings of movies on civil rights icons like Muhammad Ali, Maya Angelou, and Ruby Dee.
Don't know much about history.
The festival's opening film, Sam Cooke Legend, includes rare, never-before-seen performances by the pioneering singer, along with interviews from Aretha Franklin, Lou Rawls, and the late Bobby Womack. The festival ends on July 29th. And in Michigan, award-winning documentary filmmaker Michael Moore hosts his annual Traverse City Film Festival. The opening night film, La Gran Familia Española, is a comedy drama set in Spain. It's being called a funny, tender film about the power of family. The festival runs from July 29th through August 3rd. Today, I'm joined by film critics Justine Browning and Matt Donato of WeGotItCovered.com. Welcome, both of you. But before we get to our movies, we have to talk a little bit about casting. Since the trailer for 50 Shades of Grey has finally come out, and there was all this hubbub prior to the casting, the recasting, now the trailer's come out. My question to you is, can you give me an example of when you think they got the casting perfectly right and when it was a disaster? I'll go to you first, Matt.
Sure. I mean, perfectly right, I think of Ryan Reynolds in X-Men Origins Wolverine. What they did wrong with the character is they took away his mouth. And that's what Deadpool is. He is the merc with the mouth, and you need the mouth in order to do it correctly. When you take that away, Ryan Reynolds is basically a robot, emotionless, and that's what they turn the character into.
Well, they kind of comboed, and it's kind of good and bad. And you got an example of bad casting?
Bad casting, I don't know if it's bad yet, so I just want to bring up Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor in the upcoming Batman film. And we don't know if it's bad yet, and that's the problem.
It could be good. He's a young Lex Luthor.
They're rewriting the character, and that's how you make a character good with bad casting.
All right. Now, what about you, Justine? What are your choices?
Well, The Matrix, initially the role of Neo was turned down by Nicolas Cage and then Will Smith, and then Keanu Reeves being cast. I think that was just perfect.
I agree with you. And I will just say, I agree with you. And Keanu Reeves also was the worst casting in Dracula as Jonathan Harker.
Yes.
And for me, the best casting is Sean Connery, James Bond. What else can you say? But we'll be back, and we'll talk more movies. Coming up.
Do we die in this battle?
My time's not come yet. Not sure about yours.
He's the son of Zeus, a legend and the hero of his people. Dwayne Johnson stars in the latest version of Hercules. Next, here on Arise on Screen. Hi, I'm Mike Sargent, and this is Arise on Screen.
You ain't never been down, how you gonna get on up?
He had a sound and moves like no one else, and his music influenced a nation. He was James Brown, the godfather of soul. Chadwick Boseman, Viola Davis, and Octavia Spencer star in Get On Up.
There's one other name you might know me by. Star-Lord.
Who?
Individually, these intergalactic misfits are the most unlikely set of heroes you'll ever meet. But together, with the help of their leader, they are the galaxy's only hope. Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, and Vin Diesel star in Guardians of the Galaxy.
As far as Africa is concerned, music cannot be for enjoyment. Music has to be for revolution. Music is the weapon.
Afrobeat music pioneer Fela Kuti used his music as a weapon and became a voice for the voiceless in Nigeria. In the new documentary, Finding Fela, we hear from those who knew him best to discover the man behind the music.
My father was inspired by Miles Davis. For Miles Davis to come later, to be inspired by my father.
All this and more on Arise on Screen. Hello, I'm Mike Sargent, and welcome to Arise on Screen, your global home for films both on screen and behind the scenes. And let's get to it. First, with this week's box office winners. Lucy tops the box office this week, followed by Hercules, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Planes, Fire and Rescue, and The Purge Anarchy rounds it out in the number 5 spot. And in movie news, this year's Comic-Con in San Diego was the place to be to see the first look trailer for the revved-up reboot of Mad Max: Fury Road. Forget about Mel Gibson. The franchise film now stars Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron. According to Deadline.com, the debut trailer was a social media winner with over 6 million views since being posted on July 30th.
The favela isn't exactly a tourist destination.
Well, I'm not your regular tourist.
In the newest action film franchise, Falcon Rising, Michael Jai White stars with Layla Ali. Yes, the daughter of legendary boxer Muhammad Ali. White, as former Marine John Falcon Chapman, finds the bad guys and fights his way through exotic locations, all in the name of justice.
You want money? What kind of terrorist are you?
Moviegoers said goodbye to Japanese-American actor James Shigeta this week. Shigeta was born in Honolulu and rose to fame in the 1960s. His movie career spanned 50 years. Fans may remember him as Joe Takiji, president of Nakatomi Trading Corp., who took a bullet from the bad guy in the very first Die Hard movie. James Shigeta was 81.
I don't do romance. My tastes are very singular. You wouldn't understand.
The trailer is finally out. Anastasia Steele and Christian Grey's kinky love in the steamy movie adaptation of the bestseller 50 Shades of Grey will battle God-based romance when it comes out next year. The company behind God's Not Dead hopes to court movie couples with a faith-based love story titled Old Fashioned. Which movie will feel the love at the box office on Valentine's Day weekend 2015? Today, I'm joined by film critics Rakia Mays of theshadowleague.com and Julian Roman of movieweb.com. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
And when we come back, we will talk movies here on Arise on Screen. Coming up. He was the hardest working man in showbiz. He was the godfather of soul. Chadwick Boseman stars as James Brown in Get On Up, next here on Arise on Screen.
One of my favorite moments on the show was interviewing the author Taya Selassie. She wrote the New York Times bestseller Ghana Must Go, and she actually coined the phrase Afropolitan. And I feel like in part what this show speaks to is the Afropolitan audience. They're African, they're traveled, they're cosmopolitan, they're interested in the diaspora. That's what we deliver here, and Taya in many ways was the perfect embodiment of what I want our viewer to represent.
The new film Get On Up, starring Chadwick Boseman as James Brown, traces his life from boyhood to the late 80s and gives us a snapshot of the man behind the music. At the world premiere in Harlem's Apollo Theater in New York, Boseman spoke about Brown's significant contribution to our musical landscape.
His influence, over, music as well as the business of the music industry, the industry is still going on. I mean, I don't know if we would have had Michael Jackson the way we have Michael Jackson. He was, James Brown was one of his major influences.
Welcome back to Arise on Screen. So I'm going to go to you first, Julian. I really like this movie, actually, and I'm definitely a James Brown fan, and as Rakia said, who isn't? But I think you thought this film was decent, but not as good as some great films like Ray.
It's not the same caliber as Ray. I mean, basically, Chadwick Boseman's performance as James Brown and Nelson Ellis as Bobby Bird, they elevate the film. I mean, the film doesn't have a linear narrative. It kind of skips back around. It starts in the older life and the younger life, but you don't really get the full-on James Brown life story. It's kind of like James Brown light. It's very entertaining. It's very, very well done performance-wise, but it's not in the same category as Ray.
I agree with you. I felt it was sort of a James Brown, the hits, like we pop in at different points in his life, and it comes together as somewhat cohesive, but it really doesn't give you enough, to me, to really understand why some of the things that he did and who he really was. I get a glimpse, but really it wasn't enough satisfying. Now you, on the other hand, you really liked it. You found the performances amazing, but you didn't like the breaking the third wall when he talks to the camera?
Okay, I'll start with the positive. I enjoyed Get On Up. I enjoyed Chadwick Boseman's performance, the dancing, the singing, the lip syncing, where he actually sang some of those songs, but they did use James Brown's voice as well.
I think they had to use it.
Oh, of course, you can't
do a James Brown movie
without James Brown's music.
Okay.
Exactly. I didn't like the breaking of the fourth wall. I didn't need to see James Brown talk to me. I understand this is his story, but James Brown is gone, and I know that for sure. Just let me see a feature film and let me just watch it from my point of view. That was the only issue.
I agree with you because, you know, I think what's interesting is that this film, similar to the Jersey Boys, it's not quite a musical, but we really get to see him do full songs like you would in a musical, but it jumps back to the drama, and in this case it jumps back to the drama. But breaking the fourth wall, which is something that happens also in Jersey Boys, and I didn't think it was needed there either.
It's a gimmick, Mike. I mean, basically, when your script isn't that super strong, they want to do things to, I call it the music video culture, to try to bring the audience back in. But James Brown didn't need that. I mean, the man grew up in a brothel, was a godfather of soul and funk. You didn't have to make him spicier than he already was. If they told a straightforward story, I think it would be a much more interesting film. But not taking away from Boseman and Ellis's performances, I mean, they make this movie incredible. And I think you're going to see 2 Oscar nominations for those guys.
Do you?
I think so. I think Viola Davis did some pretty good work in here as well.
She was good. Very good.
She was very good. Well, we're going to move on. What?
Well, I was going to say Tate Taylor did The Help, and so he brought in, Octavia Spencer and Viola Davis.
Who he'd worked with before.
Absolutely.
Well, our next film is Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's based on the Marvel comic. It stars Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, and Vin Diesel as the most unlikely set of heroes you'll ever meet, and, of course, the galaxy's only hope.
My name is Peter Quill. There's one other name you might know me by. Star-Lord. Who? Well, Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw. Guys, forget it.
At the premiere, star Chris Pratt talked about the film's global appeal.
Not just an American movie, it's a movie that can be appreciated on a global scale because it doesn't even take place on Earth. There's an Earthling there who's representing our planet, but for the most part, it's all very alien. So I think that people will be able to really identify with that.
Well, I have to say, I was very surprised. I went in with very low expectations. I was not a fan of the comic book. I thought, it's a silly, I thought at the time it was Marvel's answer to all the furry talking animal comics that had come out. But like everybody else, I was blown away. I thought this movie was great. Now, Rakia, you really liked it, especially, you made an interesting point that the music kind of bridges, all the music from the 80s bridges the older and younger audience.
Yeah, they have Star-Lord, and his mother gives him music from the 70s and 80s
on
that
a
she grew up
Walkman.
with, on an old school Walkman.
Awesome mixtape.
I know. So you had all of these pop culture jokes from back in the day, the Footloose jokes and things like that really just made this movie funny. So it connected generations, the kids that love Marvel these days, but also the parents with the music and also those that grew up with comic books. This movie was funny. It showed you can be an idiot and take over the world, but all you need is a little bit of heart.
You can be an idiot and become president. We all know that. Okay.
True.
Now, you, Julian, you like this movie quite a bit too, and you made a really interesting observation that Chris Pratt is really kind of the new Han Solo.
Yeah, his character of Peter Quill is played with such a deft comic timing. I mean, it's hard to be a tough guy, kick ass, and be really funny at the same time. He's the modern day Han Solo, and I'm telling you, Chris Pratt is going to be a megastar after this movie because he's very, very good.
He is, and I have to say, the more I thought about it, he's got his own ship, and the ship is part of who he is, and it gets rebuilt, and there are a lot of things that parallel. I like the humor. I thought the humor actually worked quite a bit.
The humor is something that we just don't see anymore. I mean, Marvel has made a lot of great films, but they're all dark and bleak. I mean, even with the Nolan Batman films, there's no humor.
None.
I mean, what Guardians does is it goes back to the old school science fiction, like, Star Trek, where there's humor in it. There's action and there's all these other good stuff, but you can laugh. It's lighthearted. It's not taking itself too seriously.
Right.
Well, I think you're right, and I think the only other Marvel to have that amount of humor is the Avengers, and look how well that did.
True.
Yeah, but the Avengers wasn't funny. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy is laugh you out of the chair funny, right?
Yes, it is.
It's really humorous.
Well, we're going to move on, and I think everybody should go see Guardians of the Galaxy. But we'll be back. still to come.
As far as Africa is concerned, music cannot be for enjoyment. Music has to be for revolution.
Fela Kuti was the voice of the Nigerian people. Oscar-winning director Alex Gibney brings the life of the Afrobeat pioneer to the big screen. We'll speak to the director next, here on Arise on Screen.